Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Meet me again. So we are from grade 1. Today we want to represent about testing, assessing, and teaching. Before we go to a further way, I would like to introduce my members. So first is me, Miradila Kustina, and the second is Kau Parahita, and the third is Kori Astiwi. This subject will be divided into 4 materials. First is definition of the test. Second is assessment and teaching, and the third is approach to language testing, and the fourth is issue in a classroom testing. Definition of test. What is a test? A test is a method of measuring a person's ability, knowledge, or a performance in a given domain. So what is a domain? Domain is the focus of learning which will be assessed in subjects that are tests. For example, like a proficiency test, even though the actual performance on the test involves only a sampling of skill, that domain is overall proficiency in a language, general competence in all skill of language. Or maybe like a test of pronunciation. The test is only a limited set of phonemic minimal pairs, and a vocabulary test may focus on only the set of words covered in a particular lesson or unit. So, domain is like the focus material in the subject that will be the test. One of the biggest obstacles to overcome in constructing adequate tests is to measure the desired criterion and not include other factors in the differentiation. A well-constructed test is an instrument that provides an accurate measure of the test taker's ability within a particular domain. The definition sounds fairly simple, but in fact, constructing a good test is a complex task involving both a science and an art. So, assessment and teaching. Some people must be misunderstood between a testing and assessment, right? Both of them is during assessment is where the teacher forms a judgment about the student based on things that are observable to them. So we must know what our student can do and cannot do. And the testing is the last assessment the teacher do for collecting the final score. So do you know how different testing assessment is, right? Assessments refer to the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document the academic redline, learning progress, skill acquisition, or educational needs of students. And teaching set up the practice games of language learning, the opportunity for a learner to listen, think, take risks, set a goal, and process feedback from the coach, and then recycle through the skill that they are trying to master. So, these three aspects cannot be divided and cannot be lost one each other because it is a teaching need assessment need a test. So if you want to get a perfect score in your test, then you must to fulfill your score in the assessment. You must to get a good feedback and good comment from your teacher in the assessment test. And if you want to get a good feedback from your teacher in assessment, then you must to take note. You must to not ignore. You must to understood what your teacher say in the classroom, and that is a teaching. So you from this you can, if you good at teaching, if you um if you take a note and understood what your teacher say, then you must get a good assessment, a good feedback, a good comment from your teacher. And if you get a good comment and good feedback from your teacher, then you can get a best score in the test. You can get 100. Your final test will get 100, will get A, will get a perfect score. So that is why this third aspect cannot be separate, and this third aspect will always be together. The next is informal and formal assessment. Informal assessment can take a number of forms, starting with it sentence, the unplanned comment and response, along with coaching and other improper feedback to the student. Example: you can give like a nice job, good work. Did you say can't or can't? I think you mean to say you broke the glass, not you break the glass. Or putting a smile emoticon and some homework paper in your student homework. An informal assessment is embedded in a classroom text designed to elect performance without recording results and making fixed judgment about a student competency. For example, did you suggest the student about the strategy for compensating for reading difficulty, giving marginal comment on student paper, responding to a draft of an essay, and showing how to modify a student note taking to better remember the content of the lecture? In the formal assessment are the exercise or procedure specialty designed to tap into a storehouse of skill and knowledge. They are systematic, plan sampling technique construct to give teacher and student an appraisal of student achievement. For example, student journal or a portfolio of material is the attainment of certain course objective, and a systematic set of observation of student frequency of oral participant in class. The formal assessment is like you make a proposal, you make an essay, you make some like response or feedback to the classroom. It's like a formal assessment, but informal assessment, it's like when you are taking a note. It's like when you get suddenly quiz in the classroom, like when your teacher suddenly asks you something. That's informal assessment. And the formative and summative assessment. So, according to the function, how is the procedure to be used? Assessment can be divided become two. That is formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment evaluates students in the process of forming their competencies and skill with the goal of helping them to continue the growth process. The key to success formatting is the delivery, the teacher, and the internalization by the student of appropriate feedback on performance, with an eye toward the future continuity or formation of learning. And summative assessment aim to measure or summarize what a student has grasped and typically occurs at the the end of course or unit of instruction. For example, like final exam and general proficiency exam. So a summative is what a student has learned, implies looking back and taking stock of both, while that student has accomplished objective, but does not necessarily point the way to future progress. Final exam is a course, and general proficiency are example of summative assessment. Some people call this summative assessment as a test. And that's right, all tests like a quiz, periodic review test, midterm exam, etc. are summative assessment. But that is why many students consider this as a test because the difficulty level is same like a test. But this is different. Okay, a test, a summative test is not point out the way to the future progress, but the test is point out the way to the future progress. It's like a test is like a exam midterm test kayak UAS UTS itu summative assessment, but ujian nasional. Nah, ujian nasional, ujian PNS itu ada termasuk tes. Okay? So you know the difference about assessment and a test. Okay, don't be confused about the difference. And that's it. What I will explain you about because in the next trend is about approach to language testing, and approach to language testing material will be delivered by Galuh Parahita, my friends. So Galuh, this stand will be yours.